And I just want to say hello and welcome everyone to today's Pearl webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, to today's webinar, wherever you are. To begin with our webinar, we have Dr. Atul Jaiswal with us, who will be sharing his research experience from India. A bit of the background about our presenter. He's a Canadian Institutes of Health researcher, postdoctoral fellow in vision science at the Université de Montréal. Sorry, I'm not French, but the University of Montreal. Dr. Jaiswal's scholarship focuses on advancing the field of combined vision and hearing impairment, that is referred to as dual sensory impairment, DSI, or deafblindness, and generating evidence to inform global health and rehabilitation care practice. So in terms of today's webinar, more specifically, he will present on Inclusive Community Based Rehabilitation Project in rural India. The webinar will discuss a successful advocacy campaign using a participatory action research-based approach that allowed both disabled and non-disabled communities to come together to lead a campaign for the safety of 350 families with visual impairment at India's Vangani railway station. This webinar will conclude with this discussion on how this advocacy campaign was used, an interdisciplinary approach, and that means infusing critical disability studies as a tool for active engagement with the government and in partnership with community members. And this was to devise policy and research outcomes that had a relational and impactful result, which is incredible. And Dr. Jaiswal will discuss all of this, and this is an opportunity to learn more about the topic. And we will hold questions at the very end, at which point we will facilitate as best as possible. So please feel free to unmute yourself and write in the chat box or even use the hand raised function. And now we will open the floor to our presenter, who will now present himself and the presentation for today. So thank you, everyone. And I'm going to end it here. Sorry, you're just muted.
Yeah, so thank you so much for inviting me today for this webinar. I think this is a really nice opportunity for me to share what I did in India, and hopefully from this presentation, you'll take some ideas and then maybe we'll be able to use those in your own context to improve the lives of people with disabilities in your own area. So to begin with this, I will basically show you the outline. So I have a plan that I'll first talk about CBR as a concept. I will not go in detail of that, but because I'm pretty sure most of you are aware of this, but I'll touch on the key aspects and then how that influenced my work, like what I did differently in my case of iCBR project, so inclusive CBR project, and then about Vangani campaign. And then I'll have sort of a little bit of discussion time with where I can share. Basically, I'll also share what I did differently in terms of when I face challenges. And then I'll be happy to hear your ideas and suggestions as well. And then some lessons learned, and then finally conclusion. So this is, so I'll just begin with CBR. So we all know that CBR is rehabilitation of person within their own community using local sources. This is a very general layman definition that I could use to simplify this concept, which is very unique and novel in its own way. And I was very highly influenced by it when I learned this concept in my undergrad occupational therapy, as well as when I did my master's in social work in disability studies. So I was very much moved by this concept because, like in India, we have 1.3 billion population right now. And now if we just factor 1%, it would be like, that will be the population of people with disability. But 1% is very, I'll say the least that I could estimate. So I think when we think of that large number, I think CBR could be the only way to go about and provide rehab care to people with disabilities. And so that's how it influenced me and my thinking. And when I came to know about the key nuances of CBR, where it focuses on poverty reduction, equalization of opportunities, and promoting social inclusion, and also basically focusing on the combined efforts of people with disabilities and their families and organization and community members to improve the situation in their local context for people with disability and their families. I think I was very much influenced by this thought. And I said, okay, let me see whether I can do something in the field using CBR, this CBR learning that I've got. So as we all know that there are 5 components of CBR matrix: health, education, livelihood, social, and empowerment. I was highly interested in empowerment piece because I believe this is the most critical and most difficult to achieve, or maybe tangible to show the result in a span of time. But with my so these were some of the questions that I have in my mind, and I came up with the whole idea of like my own framework to do to develop a CBR services in the rural part of India, and I'll share that with you in a moment. But before I go there, I think it's important for me to highlight that where India is, just to give a contextual overview where we are, like where India is on the world map. So this particular presentation is basically a case study from India, my work in India in between 2011 to 2013, 2 years. So I received a 2 years fellowship from my institute where I completed my master's in social work in disability studies. I was gold medalist there in the course, and that's what I was offered this fellowship to go and test any idea in the field. And because CBR was on my mind, I said, okay, why don't I go and try CBR, implementing a CBR project in rural part of India where I have no clue how things are. So with that passion and energy and young look, sort of, I'll say a lot of ideas in my mind, I went into the field. So if you can see on the, like where my cursor is, Karjat is it's a Hindi name of a place that is 3 hours away from Mumbai, which is a metropolitan city. So if I give you an example in the Canadian context, it will be like Kingston, where I am right now based out of, and Toronto. So Toronto is a big city, Kingston is small. So it takes almost 3 hours to commute in between Kingston and Toronto. So, and the possible commute mode was train, local train. The picture of that you can see here. So basically what I was doing, I was going every day morning around 8 and taking train, and then reaching to Karjat around 10 to 11, and then was starting my work, and then finishing my work by 5, and then coming back by around 8 in the night. That was my whole routine for almost 2 years. So this place, like why I chose Karjat. So Karjat was a rural part. It was, though it was close to 3 hours, like it was 3 hours away from Mumbai, which is a very big city in India, but still it has limited resources for people with disabilities. And because there were hardly any organization or disability organization working for people with disabilities, I had this feel like it was everything was basically I have to start from scratch. And that's why I was very keen to start here, because whatever I could do in 2 years, I can say that it has culminated from my efforts that I did in 2 years. So, and at that time, based on the India census survey, they were expecting around 4,000 to 5,000 people with disabilities out of the total population of 220,000 in 2011. So this is a general idea about the number of people that were there in that Karjat area. And so when I started first my work in 2011, I had a wonderful idea. Okay, I'll go into the field, because I read all of that theoretical knowledge, right? That you go into field, people are there, they will be happy to see you there, and they'll start their support, and then you just go and start helping people and things will be fine. But all these ideas were shattered, because the moment I landed into Karjat, I realized that I was not speaking their language. So though India, we have a mother tongue called Hindi, just like you have English here and French. So, but in this part of in this particular province, Maharashtra, they speak Marathi, which is a local regional language. So I was not from this part, I was from Delhi. So I was not able to speak that language. And because I was not able to speak that language, they were not having faith on me as well as my work. So people were not supporting me at all. And it was very hard for me to say that I'm here to do the real work. And because they were clearly saying to me that you will be also working as a researcher who will collect data and run away. So you will make money out of the research that you will do with us, and you will not do that. Nothing will change here. And that's what it took me almost 6 months to convince them. It took me 6 months to learn the language. It took me 6 months to basically understand how a CBR project could be really implemented. But I think I gave that time, and I'm happy that I didn't give up that point of time, because it was really tough. You go into the field, there's no one basically just welcoming you or greeting you that you are here. And it was very discouraging and demotivating for a young person who could have got a corporate job easily in sort of any sort of organization there in Mumbai. but I was there. I was determined that I would show that yes, things are possible. Yes, I'm here to do the work, real work, not just collect data and run away. And that worked. So because I stayed there for 6 months, I was going back and forth, and I was there in community. People saw, and then gradually the things changed, and then everything happened in the next 1.5 years, and that's what the story I'll be sharing with you in next subsequent slides. So when I started there, I realized that there are a lot of disabling barriers, and there were a lot of lack of opportunities and access to resources. So that's why what I said, okay, let me come up with a framework. Let me come up with a sort of like CBR model of my own, which could lead me to what I really want to see down the line in 1.5 years that I have left with. Because my fellowship was only for 2 years. So they were providing me only salary support. There was no extra money to do any work in the field. So either I spend from my own pocket, like basically from my own salary to do any event, any activity, or any sort of provision of services, or you raise your own resources. So that was a big challenge that was given to me, and I happily took it, and I'm happy that I took it. So so the ultimate goal was to ensure that the availability and access to resources in terms of healthcare, education, and livelihood. Now, when I look back, I still think that I was also influenced a lot by medical model of disability that time. So maybe I also started with health, education, and livelihood to get entry into the community. But what is unique about my model, like inclusive CBR, this is what I say, and I published a little bit of work on this. So I started with strength-based perspective. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with strength-based perspective. It is all about identifying the strengths in the person and focusing on that and leveraging and facilitating that how those strengths could become basically the person realize their own potential, hidden potential, and then they realize they achieve their goals, they accomplish their own goal that they want to accomplish in their life. So that was one of the main thing that was at back of my mind, and I wanted to integrate these two things: strength-based perspective in CBR, and that's how I say it's inclusive CBR. So I came up with two things: partnership approach, and then capacity building and leadership as two of my main pillars. So in terms of partnership approach, I ensured that from the get-go, I let people believe that this is not my project, this is their project, this is their community, their people who have disabilities or those who do not have disabilities. So it's their sort of story. I'm just there to facilitate the whole process. So that was an ultimate goal. And then I was also ensured that there are a lot of opportunities for capacity building and leadership for people with disabilities and their families, so that they can realize that yes, they can do a lot. And because in rural part of India, in villages of India, people like those who have disability, they're always seen as a burden on the system, burden for the family, burden for the community, and burden for the system. So it was very hard to basically go and explain or make them realize that yes, like you just like you have a purpose in your life, you can do a lot, you just don't have that enough resources, but there are resources out there and you need to identify those, and I'm there to help you in that. So I ensure that they have active involvement in the whole process, so that, and through that active involvement, they'll develop their capacity, they'll develop leadership skills in themselves, and once they develop capacity and their leadership, I think they'll fly and they'll do everything else. I will not be needed anymore after 2 years. So what I wanted was role reversal. And when I use the word role reversal, often people with disabilities are seen that they are always recipient of services. They only need, they are on the receiving end. They are never on the giving end. So I wanted to change this role. I wanted to show to the community, Vangani, the Kajat community, Vangani community, that no, they can also do a lot. They can also contribute to their community. You just need to give enough resources and opportunities to them. And that's what happened in my case of 2 years of CBR project. And I can show you what happened down the line. So, and then ensuring that they are always involved in decision making and control over their own life. No one else is taking a decision for them. And often this is the case when people have communication disabilities, speech impairment, autism, and all these kinds. So it was very hard to convince the local people, the community people or families that you don't need to, you need to ask the person what they want in their life rather than you taking decision on them. It took a little bit of time, but things happened. And then I ensured that none of the services will be charged. So there will be, everything will be provided for free. No one will be paying any penny anywhere, whatever services they'll receive from this iCBR project. That was the ultimate sort of outcome that I wanted to achieve. And it was a bit of challenge for me, because if you think that you're organizing a CBR camp to distribute aids and appliances, how would you do it that if you don't have money, right? And so it was a bit of challenge, but I will show you how what I did differently, and then that what worked for me. And then finally ensuring that the people who are now, those who have disabilities, those who are trained, those who feel that now they are leaders in their own community, now they take action and then do something, and then they get the change in their own community. So this was pretty much a theoretical concept that I started with my own idea. And so these were the 4 project interventions that came out of it. And all of these I have explained very well in one of my papers that I will be sort of highlighting at the end of this presentation, which you want to go and read if you want to get more ideas. So I'll talk about advocacy for equal rights later, because this is the main component that I'll be talking today. I'll start first with the right hand side, access to inclusive education. So what was happening, because it was a rural part of India, children with disabilities were often excluded from school. Teachers were not sensitive. Those who were providing school sort of, those who were providing teaching to them. So, and the peers, the school kids, those who were with these children with disability in the same classroom, they were also not sensitized. So the whole concept of inclusive education, though the children were sitting in the same class, they were not, I'll say, part of the class, and often they were becoming dropouts from the classes, because when you're bullied every time for your disability, it's hard for you to basically remain in the same class and do the things the way the rest of the non-disabled peers are doing in the class. So I ensured that I sort of sensitize teachers as well as the non-disabled peers, and then as well as the committee members, that children with disabilities have a lot of potential. You just need to give them opportunities, and you'll see that you'll be amazed by their potential. So you can see in this picture on the right, extreme right top, that there's a child with phocomelia, and though no one was basically seeing him as a leader, but when he started to, because he was very good orator, he was very good in terms of his intellect. So he was able to orate poems. He was able to share his stories, and that's what. So I use one of his poem that he wrote by himself to highlight, I'll say, share it with the audience that was sitting in an event that we organized. And that changed the whole perception for this particular child with disability in the community from that day onward. So it was small opportunity that I provided. And when I use the word I, it's not only me, it was the whole team that worked with me. So none, like I'll say, except 3-4 of them, no one was getting paid from this work. Everyone was doing this work voluntarily. And you'll be surprised how could this be possible. But this is what happened in my case. So, and then Learn and Earn Livelihood Center. So here in this case, you can see the picture of the woman. So there are few women who have some form of disability, like some of them are speech impaired, and some of them have deafness, and some of them are those who have children with disability. So they are mother of, or I'll say sisters of people with disabilities in that area. So they all came together, and then we said, okay, let's do something to earn some income. And that's what we started with, a livelihood center here, where people were trained to. So right now, this we experimented with a lot of things, but this particular picture is all about making paper bags, and then these paper bags were being sold out to corporate companies as well as to different stores that sell these items. So this was another thing that was focused on livelihood center. Along with this, what I did was ensuring that this was done for the women group, right? Women self-help group. But then there were a lot of youth who were educated. They had disability, but they were educated enough to get job in Mumbai or other metropolitan cities. So I ensured that they get soft skill training from me, and we organized a lot of soft skill training. And through that, we organized job fairs, and through that, it happened that it was almost able to benefit 200 to 300 youth with disability. They got jobs, decent jobs in different sort of companies, and they were earning. And then in terms of health for all, you can see the picture. This is we are distributing free aids and appliances. So this is a wheelchair, calipers, and all of these things are provided free to communities. And now I'll bring basically the how many people we were able to reach out. So for access to inclusive education, we sensitized almost 220 children and 60 teachers. Basically, we reached out to almost every school that they had, like government school that was there. And then we ensured that all of them are sensitized to about disability. They know if there's a child with disability in the classroom, uh, how they should behave and how they should support this particular child, so rather than being how to become ally of these children. So in terms of Learn and Earn Livelihood Center support, through community-based vocational training, CBVT, and through soft skill training, we were able to sort of provide job placement support to almost 231. So 231 people were, I'll say, benefited through this particular program. Through medicine, surgery, therapy, aids and devices, we benefited almost 400 people in the community. So there were a lot of cataract camps were organized. There were a lot of, I'll say, eyeglasses, cataract surgeries were operated. And you'll think that how this is possible when I'm not paying anyone any single penny. I'll show you in a while what I did. So, and then, so when all of these things were happening, I came across a part which was close to Karjat. Like it was always in my route of 3 hours of train journey route that I was taking. It's called Vangani, and today the story is all about Vangani today. That what was unique about Vangani, what made me to go there. Along with my Karjat project, I also started something in Vangani, and I'll highlight that here in next slide. So what I did differently here in my case that helped me basically to provide every services for free. So I had developed partnerships with different organizations like government as well as non-government organizations, voluntary organizations, and through that as well as hospitals. So through that, I was very clear to them that I will not be paying any single penny, and I don't want my committee members or people with disabilities to pay a single penny to access any services. So either you provide all these things for free, or okay, you're not going to become the part of this project. So I think I reached out to almost 20, and you can see that 16 are here. So 16 of them become partners of this project. And so I'll just give you a quick example. So you can see the government healthcare, like for healthcare, because that's what is very tricky, right? That how can you expect that free wheelchairs, free aids and adapted devices are being distributed to people, like around 400 people without any cost. So because I reached out to government system, then I reached out to a private hospital called Mahatma Gandhi Mission Hospital. It's a medical college as well as hospital. So they were really willing to support me because they wanted me to ensure that, like, because they also had an outreach, I'll say, activities where they wanted to help these people from Karjat area, but they were not able to get enough support. So people though they were organizing camps, like committee members were not willing to go and be a part of that health camp that they were organizing. So I was the facilitator in between, and I ensured that, so whenever the Mahatma Gandhi Hospital, so through that collaboration with the hospital medical college, we ensured that yes, whenever those camps are organized, my people in the community, they are there. They're ensuring that all people with disabilities, or those who are prone to be disabled, like those who are developing cataract, glaucoma, and other sort of conditions, leprosy and other conditions that could be prevented. So they are informed about the camp, and then they are there on that day when the camp is organized. So through that, it was a win-win partnership for all the parties, which helped me to do whatever I was able to do in this span of 2 years. So we were able to reach out to 1,000 people with disability, and I have all the data to back it up. So all of these numbers are real from the field, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. So now I'll switch gears and talk about Vangani. So why this is unique village? So Vangani is a village where we had around 350 families with visual impairment. And when I say the word 350 families with visual impairment, it means that they are not born and brought up. They're not born there because of a casualty or public health problem that happened in Vangani. It's a small village there. So it was interesting that in 1998, there was a politician who said that he'll provide free homes to people who are blind. And it was a political campaign for sure. So to get electoral votes, because he wanted to gain votes based on the social work that he was trying to do. And when this news was out, 50 sort of, I'll say, people who were blind, or I'll say who had visual impairment, they immediately migrated to this place called Vangani. And where they landed here, before anything could be done, like before the home was built, the person was murdered, the politician was murdered. So the only option that was left with these 50 people, those who had visual impairment, either they go back to their own villages or places that they belong to, or they stay here and they do something on their own. So what they did, they started renting houses, and then so obviously the rent was not a lot, so they could manage it here because it was a village. And then there was a local train, like the local train picture that I showed you, because the local train was going every, I'll say 15 minutes, there was a local train that was basically moving from Vangani to Mumbai. So because of this train, they started to sell items on this local train. And obviously, like imagine like Subway, like I'm not giving you example because Subway you cannot go and sell stuff, but in India on local trains people go and sell stuff as well. So these people who had visual impairment, they were selling stuff, like selling pillow, keychains, selling hankies, selling anything that you can think of. Like it could be chips, it could be anything. So they were selling all this stuff to generate their livelihood and then remain in Vangani. So from 1998, where 50 people were there, this family grew, like this whole community grew to 350 families in the span of like from 1998 to 2012, where I was there, when I was there. So in almost a span of 15 years, that's how it grew. And it was growing because people who were educated, like those who did, I'll say grade 10, grade 12, but still they were not able to get job. So like, and they had visual impairment. So because they had visual impairment, they have to do something, right? They were getting at the age where they want to earn money and they have no jobs. So they finally ended up here, and they reach out to the seniors, like those who were already here. They had established their business, like basically selling stuff on the trains, right? So these new younger ones, they learn from them how to procure these, how to buy these stuff, and then how to go and sell these stuff on the trains, moving trains. So this was a part and parcel of. So when I was traveling on train, I used to see this every day because Wangni was 15 minutes away from Karjat, like before Karjat. So and I was always surprised that how come this particular Wangni station has so many people who have visual impairment. Like the station, like platform was always filled with, like always full with people who have visual impairment. So and then I started to explore further, and then I basically started to explore further. I said, okay, let me first see what is happening here. So I did a participatory action based research with these people just to understand what is happening in their life. So out of 350 families, 272 families participated in this study, and the data collection was being done by local youth who had low vision. They were trained to complete a survey questionnaire with these participants. Ultimately for me, it was whether I hire someone from, I'll say like, or a non-disabled, and I pay him to do the research, or I rather pay a person who is going and selling stuff on train, and if he's educated enough to conduct complete a survey, right? So that's what I chose, deliberately chose people who had low vision, those who can facilitate this data collection process. The focus was disabling barriers. So that's what we did. And the main thing that struck me was, they said to me that that every day whenever they leave, like they leave in the morning, they have no, like to sell the stuff on the local train, they have no clue whether they'll come back or not, because every day they don't, like they're not able to see properly. So when they're getting into the train, they're getting out of the train, and there's a rush on the train, it's very risky. It's very, very risky. And then on top of all of this, they were more concerned about, there was no bridge on at the Wangani railway station. So people have to cross the railway track. So for people who could see, right, people who are non-disabled, they can still see if the train is coming. For people who are not able to see, and if the train is not making like producing horn, right, using horn, the sound was not there, and the sound is not there, it was very risky. That was a big risk that come across to me. And then they said that this is the biggest concern that they have. And I was like obviously a young OT student, and then master's sort of in degree, recently graduated from a master's degree. I had no clue what to do. But then I realized that if I, being a trained occupational therapist and a social worker, if I'm not able to do anything here, who else will do it? And that was a question that remained with me. And I said, what can I do here? So I said, okay, because now I can see what is happening here, but not the rest of the world. If I can show this story to the rest of the world, things will change. So that's why what we did, like we made a 10-minute documentary. So I involved a local sort of student, a photography, a video shooting student. And with his help, we shoot a video where we basically got the nuances that we wanted to capture about Vangani, about the lives of people who have visual impairment in this Vangani area, and how they are risking their life every day by crossing railway tracks. So pretty much this was happening every day. This is how they were, and you can see that's how this is the pattern. That so the bags that you can see is their stuff that they are going to sell on the train. So, and this is what they were doing every day, and all of 5 of them they have visual impairment. So this is a small video that I don't want to show full, but I would just like to show you the key sort of yeah, you see how they are crossing the railway track. And this video is available on YouTube with the captions you can see here. So the link will be provided, and then you can go and watch it in the detail. But that's it. That's it. How we created this story. We created the whole story that how people are risking their lives. And see, this is how the train is coming, and all of these people who are visual impaired, they are trying to now get in the train. And this was happening every 15 minutes. This moved me a lot. This taught me a lot, and that something is to be done here. And let me try. I had no hope that what will happen, but at least I was happy that I tried, and I'm very happy now that I tried because it happened. And while we were doing all of this, we came across a lady who fell on the track one day. So she was blind by obviously before onwards, but then because she fell on the track, her left hand got amputated. So you can see in this video, her left hand got, and we went to her place and we wanted to understand how things happened and what she want from this whole work, like what she want to change in Vangani. And she said that like obviously what has happened to her should not happen to anyone else. This is just a video, but we made this video for 2 purposes. One purpose was to show, like, to use this as an advocacy tool. And after when this video was made, we wanted to start sort of a campaign, advocacy campaign. So the ask was clear. Our ask was to build an accessible railway foot over bridge at Vangani for the 350 families, as well as non-disabled people, like including small children, because they were also crossing the track because there was no bridge, and it was a everyday stuff. So we started with change.org. So we reached out to change.org. We explained them this is what we have. This is like we have made a video of 10 minutes, and we have like this is the issue that we want to address, how they can help. And then through the change.org person, he helped us a lot. Now he's a good friend of mine. But obviously in that span, I was new to change.org, but I had an idea that, okay, let's try this. So in my case, it was a lot of a trial and error. I will say honestly that I had no clue whether this will work or not. But I had a hope that maybe it will work. And in my case, it worked. So I would say that, yes, I was lucky that it worked. And maybe it will be the same for you as well. And that's why I'm sharing the whole story today, because maybe through this whole idea that I have done, this could be an example for someone else to do something similar in their part of the world to improve the situation. So I was given a task by change.org that, Atul, if you can get 5,000 signatures on your petition in a span of a week, 7 days, then this thing will be picked up by media. And once media picks it up, obviously the people will be behind you to see like how they can help. So I was given this task, and so it was a bit of challenge, because how do you reach out to 5,000 people? Like, how can I convince people to go and sign this petition? Though it's online, you just go and write your name and then your email. That's it. It's done. But it was new to me. It was new to others as well. So I said maybe the video thing would work. So if I encourage people to just go on to this video and see what like the plight of the people over there and how they're risking their lives every day, maybe something will happen. And that's what happened. So in a span of 7 days, almost 6,000 signatures were captured across the globe. So I'll not say it was only people from India. It was people from US, Canada, everywhere. I think obviously Facebook also helped a lot. Social media helped a lot to promote, but it was an enormous support that I gathered. And then I reached out to change.org that, yes, I have done this. but how are you sure that after 5,000 signatures thing will happen? So he explained to me what is happening at the background. He explained to me that whenever any person is signing the petition, online petition, there's an email going on his name to the Central Railway Minister or the General Manager here, with the same inbox, with the same subject title, that help 300 visually impaired families by building railway bridge. So imagine that in a span of a week, your inbox is filled with 5,000 signatures. What will you do? And that's what exactly happened. Within a week, I got a call from the general manager of Central Railways, like Ministry of Railways, that who is Atul Jaiswal? And I said, I am here. So he said that our team would like to meet with you. And so basically we set up a meeting, and then we had a meeting. So I brought my community people with me, like people who had visual impairment, but they're now leaders. People who are non-disabled, who are non-disabled, but they're community leaders. And then I got an architect who is very well versed with accessible designs. He was there, and then I had the person who shoot the whole video. So 6 of us were there as a community representative of this issue, and the rest of the 10 people were there from Central Railways. And when the whole meeting started, I could have easily sort of said to them that this is what we need, but I started with showing them this video first. I said, I would like to request you to first just allow me to show you this video, and then once we have this video over, then we'll have a discussion. And you would be amazed to see that once the video was on, and then the people saw this video, they immediately realized that what's wrong here. So I don't need to even ask, okay, what I need. And then they said to me, Atul, what you're asking is beyond our budget. It's beyond our local budget that we have. What you're asking needs to come from the federal budget, because it's a lot of money. So I said, then what should I do? So they said that you have to reach out to media and start advocating for basically inclusion of this into the railway budget. And that's what I did. So we told this story. It was captured very well in all the media houses back in Mumbai. And then that's also through this advocacy that we did. And then also in parallel, what I did was reach out to all disability organizations across India and ask them to write a letter to Ministry of Railways, telling them that this is a big issue and they should fix it. And through all of this cumulative effort, it happened. So on April 2013, finally the Ministry of Railways, the sanctioned 1.5 like 15 million Indian rupee, which is almost 300,000 Canadian dollars, to build the bridge. But from 2013 to 2016, like it took me almost, this 2016. So 2016 December, the bridge was ready. So this is just a picture, because I was here doing my PhD that time, because I landed in Canada in 2015, and so I was still in touch with local community people to ensure that yes, things are happening, and it happened. So now the bridge is ready, and the whole details of this work was published in this, so that anyone and this is disability-CBR Inclusive Development Journal is open access. It's free. So anyone in any part of the world can go and read what I did, maybe borrow some ideas from here to see if they can do something similar in their part of the world. So this is pretty much, I'll just stop for 2-3 minutes, and I would like to see if someone has anything to comment or share, anything. Anyone, please raise your hand. Or yeah.
Atul, it's Lynn.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's just amazing to hear your story, and you've succinctly put so much work into just a few minutes. There's so many things I want to ask you about, but one of the things that I am really becoming more conscious of, over the past, we have done some videos. We're not consistent in doing videos, and like in the work and the teams that I'm with. And I'm wondering if you can say a little bit about what you've learned about creating videos with community partners.
Sure. So I'll say that I was a young master's graduate student from like disability studies course. So I was very new to, and that time, like I'm talking about 2011, right? So all these things were new to me as well. So, but there was this person, Amol Lalzare, like he was very passionate to shoot. So I involved him to think that whether he can come together with me to this area of Vangani and see what is happening. And I requested him to be with me because he had the skill of shooting, right, which I don't have. But I had the skill what I want to see in the video. That's what will move the world. And so we both combined, we both obviously collaborated together. So the captions, editing, and everything took place. And then in that process, I learned a lot about video shoot and video making. And in this process, because you want to you want to show the real world, like that, you don't want to, I'll say, camouflage as well as also distort the reality. So it was it was a bit of challenge, but I think we candidly approached community people. We said that this is what is happening. We are going to file a petition. This is the end outcome that we would like to see, that we want to see a disabled friendly bridge here in Vangani. How can you support? And because everything, because I think the thing that I did differently was, in my case, was I was not showing that I'm a gold medalist from masters and this and that. I was reaching out to them just like a human being who is there to help. And I was also showing that I'm ready to learn from you and I'm ready to understand, because your stories are your stories. I'm not living my life with people who have vision impairment in Vangani. I can never understand. And being a non-disabled male, I can never understand the realities of a female who have blindness as well as a hand got amputated. It was a bit of tough, but then I think because we approached everything with a very honest approach and genuine approach, they were willing, and they were willing to showcase what they could, what they are doing in their life, and that's how everything worked. So I took consent from all of them, and through that consent process, and I think they were very happy that at least someone is doing something. So I think that changed the whole approach. I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure whether this is what we wanted to hear.
Yeah, that was very helpful. Did he volunteer to be the videographer? Or did
Yes. So basically, okay. So if I'll take you back to the to the list of the, just give me one sec. Yeah. So this.
Because I really appreciate your openness about funding. Often people do not talk about funding issues, and it's so important. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So if you see the video volunteers, like this is a non-governmental organizations who are very unique in its own way. They basically pick young dropouts from school, like those who finished education but not to the level that they can get a job, like till grade 10 or grade 12. And then they pick them and then they train them how to shoot videos. And so basically they train them to shoot videos on issues that are important for advocacy. So, and I was aware of this organization. I was aware of this organization's work. I reached out to the video volunteers head that do you have anyone in the local vicinity, like in Mumbai vicinity, who could help me? And then he connected me with this person, Amol Lalzare, like whose face you can see in the video. And you'd be surprised, like in all of these pictures, I hope you might have noticed that you don't see me anywhere, because I don't want to see myself here. Because for me, it was always people who lead the show. So I made Amol as the face of this campaign. So if you go on to change.org petition that the screenshot I showed, you will see Amol Lalzare and Atul Jaiswal. It's not Atul Jaiswal and Amol Lalzare, because I wanted him to feel that he's making that change. He's the part of the change. And I think that's what should be the purpose of CBR people, like who are working in this field. Like you have to make other person realize that he is the part of the change now, and you are just a facilitator. And I think if you do that, so ultimately at the end of the like this video shoot and everything, I didn't pay anything except like food and a little bit of his travel expenses. But later on, we were awarded for this video documentary and the advocacy work that we did. So I share, like obviously the half of the prize money was given to him. And then he was also awarded from his own organization, because this particular was a very big thing that that we did together. I hope it helped.
Atul, we also have questions in the chat box for you. So Ellen asked, have the project participants continued to develop connections with the donor groups you recruited? That's one. And then there's another question to that. And if you can share anything about how all the donor groups were recruited, what were the benefits for these groups?
Sure. Okay, so maybe now I'll share. I'll touch on all these aspects with this slide itself. So imagine that you are a young graduate, you wanted to like bring a change in the world and that, like big theories. And finally, now you're into the real world where you are facing people with disabilities in the community who have not, who are not aware of their rights, who are not aware of what services or entitlement they could benefit from. And people don't see you as they're part of their community. So all these are sort of very unique nuances against me that I have to basically cater and also ensure that the project survives, right? It does not die out in the middle of my work. So the first challenge that I got was lack of community. I hope the answers to the question that you posed are here. So that's why I'm highlighting here. So if not, then I can come back to the questions again. So I had lack of community acceptance for this CBR project because they were not. So it took me 6 months. So, but then I realized that it's very important to develop rapport, develop trust of community on me as well as on the work that I'm doing. So that's what I'm saying. Like first 6 months, zero output. Like I can show you my report, what I was giving to my supervisor, like my fellowship supervisor. I said that nothing is happening, nothing is moving. I'm organizing CBR camps, I'm organizing free aids and appliances camp. No one is coming. And it was just because people were not willing to be part of this work. They had no faith on me as well as on my work. But then I said, I will stay back. I will see like I will be persistent in my effort. I'll be sort of consistent. I'll remain here and I'll see what is happening. And it worked because I was there. They were seeing me every day. Okay, trying to be with one or the other person with disability, their family, talking to their family, seeing what is happening to them and how I can be of help. I think gradually it changed the whole approach towards me, their perception towards me, as well as my work. And then once the first 6 months were over, I got enormous support. And within these 6 months, I developed partnerships with these 16 organizations. And I'll not say I approached all of these 16 organizations who were partner of this camp like work immediately. I think it happened over a period of time. I think once I was stuck with, okay, for health really support, whom should I reach out? And then I mapped, basically I use a lot of participatory role appraisal approaches where you map out the resources that are in the community and that were also in the larger community, like when in Mumbai and in nearby places. So that's how, through that mapping of the resources, I was able to see that, okay, if I can convince one of the big lead organizations that is working for children with autism, that is working for people who have leprosy, that is working for people who have cataract or eye care, right? And I can convince them that they should come to this place of my work, Karjat, and see people are sort of getting affected by all these health conditions and they could be of help. And I think people are running these organizations because they wanted to help. So it worked for me. And so I was very clear upfront that I don't have I don't have funds to give you. I cannot provide funds to give you. But one thing I'll ensure that whenever we are organizing camps, it's not me who is organizing, it's you. It's all of us who are organizing this camp. So you will not be just a person coming and delivering services. You will be part and parcel. So you can see this project equally yours as it was mine. And I think that changed the whole dialogue. And I think it worked very well for me because I think people also understand, right? If you approach them with a genuine interest or with just interest that you want to do something just at a superficial level. And through that only, it was a Herculean task to reach out to 1,000 people with disabilities with no funds in your pocket. But then gradually what I did, along with all of this, I also ensured that I raised some money. So I also got another fellowship of, I'll say, not a lot, but good enough to support events organization. Because whenever you're organizing different camps, you also need to ensure that you have lunch for people who are coming. So, and imagine that you have to secure lunch for 100 people for one event, how much that will be. in Canada, you can estimate, right? So the same thing is there as well. So ensuring that there's a banner, there's a proper flyer that is posted across the community. There are people going and traveling, so you might have to give travel support to some people with disabilities. All these things were raised, and that was one thing that I did. But the main thing that worked in my case was this networking with this 16 like-minded organizations who were willing to help. And through this creation of win-win partnership, it worked. And gradually I told them very upfront that I will be leaving at the end of 2013. So then you still have to continue this work with this community people. So I don't want you to leave this work because I will be leaving. And that sort of a sense of security was developed. That's why I was always trying to be behind the curtain rather than upfront on the. So I always, like, whenever there was an event, I was not the one who was giving speech or inviting or becoming MC of the event. It was always a person with disability. It was always a local person from the community who was involved and do that work. And through that, I think because I did this whole approach very differently, it worked out very well in my case, because people started to see this project as their project rather than Atul Jaiswal's project, which is only here for 2 years. So pretty much that was one small important thing. Then there was attitudinal, architectural, institutional barrier that we all know. So I organized a lot of awareness generation camps and community education activities throughout the year. And it was through in the school, it was also sometimes using or I'll say video documentary on disability and showcasing that people across the globe who have disability, like any type of complex disability that they could think of, and people are still doing amazing things, like showing movies on Stephen Hawking, and then showing that he despite he's not able to move his limbs, but still his brain is working. That's good enough. So that I think showing, and then showing also some local talents. So I showcase just like the way I showed the example of this children with phocomelia, and he delivering a speech and a poem that he wrote by himself. People started to see the leadership potential, and then once people started to see that potential, they started to appreciate you and appreciate the person with disability. And when I think that barrier is broken between the non-disabled and the disabled community, I think things just started to happen gradually. The support started to flow. So though there were a lot of limited resources in terms of, like, for me, it was funds always, it was manpower, services, but through the community resource mapping, through the networking, everything was happening. There were challenges in between because like human nature, right? Everyone would like to say that, no, my name should be on the top of the banner, that this event is being organized by me. So what I was doing in a smart way, that I was ensuring that everyone's logo is placed exactly on the same horizontal level on the banner, so no one can say. And then whenever I sort of request my MC, I will say that, tell that this event is not organized by us. This event is being organized by all these like-minded organizations, or those who have willingly supported this project. And they have come all the way from Mumbai or the nearby areas to support all of us. So I think it was all about the conversation, the approach that changed the whole dialogue and the work. Another important thing that I think I would like to highlight here, that was an immense learning for me, was power dynamics that I could see between persons with disabilities and professionals, like rehab professionals or healthcare professionals, because I couldn't see that. So though I read in the disability study that these things exist, but I could only see in the real field that yes, they exist. And then another very interesting part was power dynamics within people with disabilities. Like people who are able to speak or communicate, they were dominating people who were not able to speak or communicate, like people who had speech impairment, people with autism, people with deafness, right? Or those who do not have speech as the main communication. And that's what was, I think, one of the most important things that changed my life. And that's why I'm right now in the field of deaf blindness, because that's what I realized, that people who have I'll say who can communicate, who don't fall into this category of communication disabilities, they often dominate the other sort of people or other groups who have disability, like communication disabilities. And that's why I chose deaf blindness as my research topic in my postdoc as well as in my PhD. In my PhD, I explored how we can enhance the participation of people who have deaf blindness. It was a more of a qualitative study, but in my postdoc, I'm trying to see what we can do to improve the situation of seniors who have concurrent hearing and vision loss, or you can say age-related hearing dual sensory loss, and in this current COVID-19 situation when they are trying to access healthcare. So what is happening to them? and how we can improve this. And all of these ideas, I think, came from this whole fifth point that I'm trying to raise here. But because I could see all of that happening, power dynamics, I was very clear from the get-go. The moment I see anything like that happening, where one vulnerable group is basically trying to become the oppressor for another oppressed group, I said, I have to be very clear and tell them upfront that this is not happening and this is what you're doing. So, and I think people, once you make them realize, they understand that, yes, this is what they're doing and they're happy to change. And that's what happened in our case. Gendered vulnerabilities, like obviously we all know that women with disabilities, they have double disadvantage. And if you add up further intersectionalities, things will further change or further become complicated. So I ensured that women were the leaders in my project. So I had almost, out of the 3 people whom I were paying monthly salary to do the field work, and they were local sort of people, like local women with disabilities. They were women. So I was trying to reinforce the whole idea that women can do a lot. Women with disabilities can do a lot, and that's what was happening. So through this whole work of 2 years, at least I can for sure say that the 3 women who were employed and trained as a leader, CBR leader, they are still leading the show in the community. So lessons learned, just briefly touch on these. Like, I think I already have touched on this, but I think it's very important. Like when you have a noble idea, go and really first talk to people, try to understand what they want from you, understand the context before imposing the idea into the real world. Involve as many stakeholders and then make them feel that this project is their project. If you do that, then the whole win-win partnership will start to happen. And once that is there, funds, resources will not be a problem at all. This also mitigate conflict of interest. And then finally, the attitudinal change is possible if you make the people who have disabilities realize their own potential and provide them with enough opportunities to take decisions, leadership, and contribute back to society. Once you do all of that, for sure, you can see that there will be a sensitization and like sensitization of disability happening in non-disabled population by showcasing the capabilities of people with disabilities. A lot of transfer of skills I did in this span of 2 years. Whatever I was knowing from my occupational therapy, as well as my master's degree in disabilities, social work and disability studies, I passed on all that learning and knowledge. I passed on all the learning of CBR, like WHO CBR manual to them. I trained people on this so that they know what CBR is all about, how to run DPOs. That's what we did. And there was a DPO formed at the end of the day, which was able to now continue the work. So though I'm here in Canada, that work is still going on. So yeah, pretty much. So I think I have captured all of this. So we all know CBR is very important. How it is executed and planned, that's what is the most critical question. And there are various factors that could complicate, but if you're cognizant of those factors like power dynamics, gendered vulnerabilities, you can take care of them. And through this, I believe, like in my case, the empowerment, little bit of empowerment was facilitated for these people with disabilities who are now leaders in their own community. These are some of the key references. These are the 3 publications that are highlighted in yellow here, which if you want to go and read, you can read. And these are by like funding support for my postdoc. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Atul. I don't know if we still have any time left, but we just have one more question in the chat box if you'd be willing to answer. It's by
Sure.
And it says, what actually inspired you to get involved in such a great project with people with disability or persons with disability, doctor?
Okay, for me, I think like I believe that I feel happy when I help someone. So that was the innate thing that was in me, right? And when with my degree in occupational therapy, I was able to realize it more. And with my social work further on, in disability studies, it gave me more, I'll say, nuanced understanding of my own purpose in the world. And that was very clear that I would like to work in the field of disability. I had no clue what I will be doing, but I had one clear idea that yes, I'll be devoting my next life, like this whole life for this field. And that's what I hope I'm doing now. So with all of this, I think I was always intrigued by this fact that there are a lot of theoretical models, right, that exist. And CBR model by WHO itself is like that, which sounds very simple, which sounds very easy to do. But when you like whether it really works, that was my question back in the back of the mind. And then when I wanted to test it, do not want to test these ideas where things are already happening, because then there's no I'll say option for you to basically judge whether or evaluate whether the things are happening because of your work or something else, right? So there should not be a confounding factors, variables. So I always I start with a space where things are like nothing is happening. So I think that was the whole intent why I chose to work in this field of disability. I chose Karjat because it was rural part of Maharashtra State, where there were no disability organizations. There were no disability organizations when I started there. It was very unique for me to say that yes, happened in the span of 2 years was a little bit of my sort of contribution to this, to Karjat and community of Karjat. So, and when you started to see that things are happening, you get further motivated. So because this whole advocacy campaign worked, bridges built, I still I was not able to go back to India and visit the bridge and meet my people in Karjat and Vangani, but I hope to do so, and that's what I'll be doing when I'll be visiting India in near future. But ultimately, every step that you do motivates you to take an extra difficult step. So my PhD work was all about deaf blindness, and I have interviewed 16, like I have conducted qualitative interviews with 16 individuals who have deaf blindness, like Helen Keller. So imagine that you have to conduct qualitative interviews with people who are deafblind, who are not able to speak, or who are not able to see and hear you properly. How would you organize the whole process of conducting interviews? And my whole argument was that if I'm not able to do this, all right, and the same thing is happening to most of the researchers. Often we researchers, we put all these complex disability conditions into our exclusion zone criteria. Okay, we'll not include people who have complex communication difficulties, will not include them, right? We'll always, so my challenge was that if you don't include them, who will include them? And if they are not, their voices are not captured, how would we really say that our society is inclusive, or whatever services or design or society we have designed is catering to the needs of these people as well? So that's what I did in my case. So I'm keep on challenging myself. So right now I'm working with seniors who have communication difficult, like deaf blindness. And it's very interesting because right now, again, we are doing qualitative interviews with them in Quebec and Ontario. And I can say that the whole experience that I gained from conducting qualitative interviews with adults with deaf blindness is very different from what I'm doing right now. So I'm hoping that there'll be a paper out on this, like methodology. And I also wrote a paper on conducting qualitative interviews with deaf blindness, adults with deaf blindness. So if you want to go and read, I think it would be a nice thing to see how I have again challenged myself to do something different. But I hope through that, they would be like, yeah, like some people in some part of the world would get motivated to take the same challenge and do it. And we will be able to create the inclusive society. I hope that answered the question.
Atul, do you still have a bit more time for any more questions that may be coming in?
Sure. Yeah, please.
So Stefan in the chat said, may you repeat the previous slides where you showed the organizations that you worked for? You tried retrieving the Design Research Design Foundation, was interested in seeing that. Yeah.
So like if you're really interested, I can basically connect you with the founder of Disability Research Design Foundation. His name is Abhishek Ray, and he's an architect by profession, but he's very much into inclusive and accessible design. You're basically following universal design principle. He has done a lot of amazing projects where he has converted museums, like the historical museums, historical places into accessible places now. So he is doing amazing work, and if you're interested, I can connect you with him. And he was also one of the person who was, I'll say, my supporter in this whole work, because he was there to ensure that the bridge which is built is ensuring that it's accessible.
So in the chat, Stefan wrote that yes, he would really appreciate it if you can do that connection between the two of them.
Sure. So so Stefan, please email it to me. Just email it to me so that I have your email, and then I'll be happy to connect two of you. Yeah, video volunteers for sure. I think you just need to type the name of video volunteers. You will see they are doing amazing work, but they're doing it in India for sure. But they are doing amazing work. Yeah, I'll be happy to connect you both, connect to video volunteers as well as Disability Research Design Foundation. My pleasure. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, I'll be happy to talk, walk you, I'm happy to deliver another webinar on basically my qualitative PhD research, right? Where I interviewed 16 adults with deaf blindness. I think it's very unique thing. I'm very proud of what I did. I'm proud of this work that I did at Vangani advocacy campaign. And then I'm very proud of my PhD work. But I took the challenge. I had no clue how to interview them, because that's what was one of the main questions that was posed to me in my PhD defense. How would you interview them? And I had said that I have no clue what I will be doing, but I have a hope and I have a little bit of knowledge of deaf blindness. And I think that should be good enough to help me to try. And because it was PhD, right, I can try. I cannot try all of these things in postdoc, but for sure, PhD, you can still try things, new things. I'll be happy to do that. Anything else?
Atul, it's Lynn again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You've touched on so many topics that are really interesting for all of us who participate in these webinars, and given us much, much, much to think about, including your big picture. You know, I think many of us have dedicated decades, or are planning to dedicate decades, our life work. You know, it's really heartening, I think, for people to hear that you see the big picture of this work. It's not something that happens in 2 months or 6 months, or, you know, some of the smaller projects might happen in a shorter period of time, but you have to have the bigger picture in mind as well. So I'm really glad that you emphasized that also. Thank you so much. And we will be back in touch with you about doing some other webinars and other things. I guess my last question is just, are you aware of any connections between any of the Indian NGOs or others, I guess, that you've been working with that they have in Africa? Because I think the connection between people who are working in Africa, people who are working in India would be really good to promote as well. I'm just wondering if you're aware of anything of that nature that's happening.
I believe the CBR Congress, whenever it is organized, I believe there, so people often meet there. I have not been to CBR Congress yet, but I have presented there as well.
Yeah, it's just often hard for, it's hard for
Yeah.
community people to get to the CBR Congress. We've presented as well.
Yeah, so maybe I have to revisit the list of my, obviously the organization that I was in touch with, and whether they have, I believe site savers, they might have, or maybe, yeah, maybe I'm not very 100% sure, because I never thought of this question, but because you have asked this, I can do a little bit of search and see whether there is a possibility of any organizations that are working in India who could sort of, who could cater or who could partner with organizations in Africa as well. Yeah, for sure. Why not?
Thank you. Back to you, Sarah.
Okay. Now I would like to thank our wonderful guest speaker, Dr. Atul Jaiswal, for taking the time today to present your academic experience and to inform us on the policy changes in India that have had a whole of a society effect. We really appreciate your time, your research, and the tremendous knowledge you shared with us. It's very appreciated. And we hope that we can have more webinars with you and have more interesting discussions like this one. I think it's tremendous. I'd also like to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And we hope to continue to participate in these webinars with us. So all the very best to you, Doctor. And thank you to everyone on the call. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Yeah, it was my pleasure to be sharing whatever I could. I hope to continue to do that in the near future. Thank you.